Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. Now, over the years, the church has been a place of solace, a place of peace, a place where people go to find their balance, to find peace, love, strength, and emotional stability. But this has evolved in some cases where some churches have become totally opposite of what they were known to stand for in the past. Today's true crime story looks at a church called the Seven Angels Ministry in South Africa and how this church would turn out to become a cult who had girls, over 100 girls or women for that matter, camped in the church to sexually satisfy leaders of the church. These church members would have some of its leaders also engage in gangsterism to the point they would have a gunfight with the South African police and end up killing 5 police officers and a soldier. Yes, this is a church. This is not a gang. This is a church, not a drug cartel. If you are ready for this ride on the Seven Angels Ministry, please buckle up really tight because this story is going to blow your mind. Now, let's go. Now, the Seven Angels Ministry Church was established in 1986 by a man called Sifiwo Mancoba in Umzikulu, KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. It was initially called Angel Ministry, an acronym for All Nations God's Evangelical Lamp Ministry. Interesting. Mancoba recorded most of his teachings, distributing them amongst his subordinates. They were then tasked with spreading his word from village to village, hence creating a recruitment system which encouraged people to come to him for salvation. Personally, I have my issues with how some of these men of God operate, but I'll shelve that for now as we go through the story, as and when I have to come in and critique with my observation of some things which I think are not the best, I will come in. Okay, so shortly after his death in April of 2015, his 7 sons refused to succeed him as leaders of his church, choosing instead to break away and form the Seven Angels Ministry, which would be led by their mother. Now, the church was for the most part closed off to the general public. Education and paid work outside of the church were believed to be doctrines of devil worship. So, straight away, you see indoctrination setting in. I don't believe that if somebody is a member of your church and decides that I need to get educated outside of the church as well because I actually have a life to live outside of the church. I need to lead my life, so I need some education. I need to also work and get paid. After all, when I come to church, you are going to take some form of offertory. How do I get money to pay if I don't work? But here is a church who were pushing the agenda that education and a paid work outside of the church were believed to be doctrines of devil worship. So, in that regard, you are going to be kept subservient in the church and to the church all your life as a member. To me, all due respect, it doesn't make sense. Now, members of the ministry were required to relinquish all of their cars, money, and properties as gifts to the angel brothers if they wish to join the congregation. My second issue, if the so-called angel brothers have found it prudent and positive in that regard that you gift them your cars, your money, and properties to join the congregation, and they know that there's something good in receiving those things, why are they not allowing their members to work for them and those things and for their members to enjoy them themselves as well? Straight away, you see that it just takes common sense to see through some of these tricks. All you need is a woke mind and common sense to see through all these shenanigans and decode the tricks in there. But surprisingly, over and over and over again, you would find out people are actually falling victim to these things. And it baffles me so much because I think that the tricks have been exhausted. Now they are just being recycled by some of these so-called men of God. But it didn't end with how they were treating their congregations or their congregation. It escalated so fast, and I wasn't surprised because with ego and personalities like this leading a church, nothing will be enough for them. They would want to take over the world, and even that, if achieved, will still not be enough. So it is believed that the church was experiencing financial strain, and I'm not surprised again about that. They will experience the financial strain because the foundation is wrong. You are making it about the human beings who are leading the church instead of the God the church is supposed to guide you to. Okay. So it was believed that the church was experiencing financial strain as they struggled to house and feed the many congregants that lived within the church's compound. Now, police believe this was the prime motivator for the events that will occur on the 21st of February. Now, unknown attackers at the time walked into the Mancoba police station and just opened fire on the police officers. In the process, 3 police officers were killed instantly, with an off-duty soldier also shot dead. The gunmen had earlier killed 2 additional police officers at a location 60 kilometers from the police station, and the attackers took off with a police van and 10 firearms, weapons that were used to rob a Capitec Bank ATM not far from the police station. So let me just backtrack a bit. You begin to wonder, why are things just escalating so fast? But yes, money, they say, is the root of all evil. Some will beg to differ. But here is a church where now you have some members even committing robberies, committing murders of police officers, killing an off-duty military guy, and you still have members attending the church. Okay, but the police would also definitely respond to that assault. Now, on the 23rd of February 2018, the SAPS, that's SAPS, went along with the Hawks and the National Intervention Unit and Tactical Response of South Africa. Now, they infiltrated the Seven Angels Ministry compound after receiving a tip-off about the whereabouts of the firearms used in the Mancoba police shooting. A shootout between police officials and the suspects left 7 people within the compound dead, 3 of whom were Mancoba brothers, and over 10 arrests were made that day, with 4 of the suspects being directly linked to the shootout that occurred days earlier at the police station. Young girls and women were also rescued from the compound. So this is where the whole thing gets weird. They attacked the police station, they killed 3 police officers and an off-duty soldier. They take their weapons, they drive off in a police van. They later on use some of these weapons to rob a bank's ATM. Don't forget, this is the church we are talking about. They perform all these atrocities, or they commit all these atrocities, and when the police finally track them down, you would expect that out of, well, I wouldn't even say respect for the law. They've already shown they don't respect the law, but you would have expected that the confrontation from the police would sort of at least tune them in the right direction or get them to back down and surrender. But they stood up to the police officers, a gunfight ensued, and in the course of that gunfight, over 7 people were left dead within that compound. And of those 7, 3 of them were part of the Mancoba brothers. and 10 arrests were made. And just when it was like it can't get worse, it actually got worse, because once the police were able to now breach the compound, they found several young girls and women at the compound. And that takes us to the sex cult aspect of this so-called church. So in the days that followed, arrests were made, and the Seven Angels ministry was all over the news, actually. And following the arrests made at the ministry, more than 40 women and young girls whom authorities believed were sex slaves for the Mancoba brothers were taken in for questioning. Now, a majority of the women rescued from the compound were under the age of 25, with some being as young as 12 years old. My God, how do you get yourself to treat your fellow human beings like this? And this is supposed to be a church. What Bible were they reading from? What doctrines were they emulating from the Bible? What Christ-like attitudes were they putting up? And sometimes, I'm not trying to blame the victims, but how do you get yourself into this? But well, I guess we would never know. Only they actually know what was able to get them to succumb to this kind of bad treatment from these so-called leaders of that church. Now, children were also not allowed to have birth certificates. So, despite all of them being married, the Mancoba brothers considered the many other women in the compound as their wives too. Satisfying the brothers sexually was seen as a service to God. My God, this sounds like something from somebody's nightmare, something from maybe Hitler's nightmare or something. How can you be treating people like this? You are already married, and you still consider that all the other women on the compound are your wives, and that if they satisfy you, the leaders of the church, sexually, they're actually performing a service to God. And the women also believe it. Now, the majority of the women who were questioned about the cult were not forthcoming with information to authorities. And even after the shootout with police officials, they demanded to return back to the Seven Angels ministry. And this is where I get so sad, because you can tell the extent of the indoctrination. It's so deep. They are in bondage, psychological bondage. They can't free themselves. They don't see their lives independent of this so-called church. They've been brainwashed and indoctrinated so much. They see these guys as gods, but in actual fact, they are just their fellow men who are using the word of God to manipulate them and take advantage of them. How can this be happening? How can this be happening? I just don't get it. Now, following from the 10 of events outlined earlier, Commission of Inquiry was set up by the South African government. So the Seven Angels ministry had already been under investigation since 2016 by the Commission for Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities for breach of ethics. Currently in South Africa, there was no legislation to self-regulate newly formed religious bodies. Appearing before the commission in 2016, Banale Mancoba, the leader of the church at the time, explained their purpose as being of divine intervention on earthly matters. It consisted of 7 representatives. While the investigation into Seven Angels ministry was private at the time, the chairperson of the committee did forward recommendations to a parliamentary portfolio committee to expedite actions against the Mancoba brothers, but they were rejected. The portfolio committee made its own recommendations that it should convene a national consultative conference to engage all religious bodies. The Parliamentary Portfolio Committee sent these recommendations on the same day the Mancoba killings took place. Now, sometimes, in as much as I love true crime, I love what I do, I come across some cases and I lose the taste in my mouth because I wonder how people are so wicked. There are different forms of crimes. There are certain crimes people perform or people have committed at the point of being provoked or at the point of getting angry. That is not to excuse them. But there are certain crimes that have been prolonged. They have traveled the course of time, day by day, night by night. You have people taking their fellow human beings through gruesome stuff. Like this story I'm telling you. And it's a true story. It happened in South Africa. How can this be happening? And it's a church that is doing this. So their trial is still ongoing. It has been ongoing over the years, and as of 2022, different forms of it are still playing out. I'm waiting to get the final verdict, and I'll bring you the full package on that as well. But this is my advice. I don't think religion is bad, but I think that you should be very careful you don't lose your common sense when you are following religious stuff. Don't get indoctrinated to the point that you lose your sense of reasoning into things. I believe that God, or whatever you will call it in your religion, give us a brain just so we could also think into things and make the best decisions to make him proud that we are making good use of what he gave us as brains. That is my personal opinion. Share your comments in the comment section. Tell someone about this channel. Share the links with your audience. And please, if you are yet to subscribe, kindly hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button. I will catch you another time. As always, stay safe out there.